I'd like to welcome you once again to our continuation of our special series. This is a series that originally I said would be 7 steps to mastering health. Of course, within each one of those steps, there are multiple other steps. So when we do a show on stress management program for you here, we may end up doing 4 or 5 or 6 more in that series, because needless to say, you cannot condense everything you need to know within one single discussion. That's why when I talk about health and nutrition and changing our lives, I generally set a standard, a minimum of 1.5 years. Now there's a reason for that. And it's very difficult to get people to commit to something as long as 1.5 years. Most of the time people do a weekend retreat or maybe a 5-day or 3-week, never 1.5 years. And that's because for the first 6 months of our trying to understand why our body is suffering in some way, what we need to be optimally well, you can't even understand the basics of how your body works until you put your body through challenges. For example, before we started filming, I was going around the room asking people thus far, how much weight have you lost? Well, some people's lost 20 pounds, and other people have lost 2 pounds, some people lost no pounds, some people lost and stopped losing. Now the issue is, why? Well, because the body goes through adjustments and changes. You just can't continue to lose weight indefinitely. There has to be a set point where the body stops and then starts maintaining a certain metabolic activity, adjusts itself, maybe for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then it can continue to lose weight down to its ideal weight. And what's interesting is when you reach your ideal weight, your body will know it. Now, we're not counting calories, and we're not starving. In fact, I've placed no limits on the calories you can consume, right? I've said, eat all you want, but just make sure that what you're eating is alive, it's vital, it's enzymatically rich. And in the process, you're eating good foods and eliminating bad ones. Now, some of you have probably eliminated everything from the system that you shouldn't have had in there from day one, right? And others of you are more measured. You took my advice and take 1 bad thing per week, or even maybe 1 bad thing per month out. So for some of you, you won't even reach your full detox potential for 1 year, because you have a minimum of 12 bad things in the diet, like sugar, meat, dairy, the MSG, caffeine, alcohol, chicken. And by the time you get rid of that and artificial sweeteners, it's 1 year. Others, it was 1 week. You decided, let it go, and you let it go. A lot of that depends upon the courage and confidence you have in yourself to make these dynamic changes. The whole process minimally takes 1.5 years. More ideally, depending upon how toxic you are, how much exposures you've had, how many assaults you've had against your system, for some of you it may require 2 to 3 years. But be realistic. If you're 60 years old, 70 years old, and you've been abusing yourself all that time, maybe not intentionally, maybe you didn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to smoke this cigarette to get cancer. That's what I want today. Or I'm going to drink so my liver will shut down. Right? I want to destroy all my folic acid, B6, B12, and so I can develop homocysteine and maybe die of a heart attack. You're not doing that. But the consequences of what you're doing are the same as if you were doing it for that reason. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can do something inadvertently, innocently, like putting a blindfold on, driving 80 miles an hour through a school zone. Now, if you're lucky enough not to hit anyone the first time, you will the second time. So the person who says, well, I'm interested in health, well, how can you be interested in health when what you're doing is not going to give you a result that will end up in health? It's like saying, well, I'm in school to learn, but you never study a book. You never ask an appropriate question. You never challenge yourself. Then be honest, you're not in school to learn. You're in school for some other reason. You're smoking for some other reason, drinking for some other reason, eating garbage for some other reason. Because if you took that same type of rationalization and same type of manifesting dysfunction, if you took all that into your workplace, you'd have been fired in a day. So you will maintain a high standard of quality work and focus and consciousness and attentiveness and discipline to what you need to gain some respect or some form of acceptance or a paycheck, right? But you don't do it for your own health. Every rationalization you could possibly imagine to use, you've used. or others around you have used. Now, the idea is that not everyone is able to understand the consequences of what we've done up to this point. We've been led to believe that there are no consequences to improper health and living until you manifest a classically defined symptom: heart attack, breast cancer, arthritic joint, something that you can see, measure. But that's illogical. That's not reasonable. Why? Why isn't it reasonable? It's not a rhetorical question. It takes years. Takes years to develop. Right. What else? What else?
Because then we're working with dis-ease instead of trying to point to what makes us more healthy. We're only looking at what's wrong instead of what's right.
Good. Only looking at what's wrong instead of right, and you're not understanding disease as it manifests. Imagine this, saying, I put money in the bank early in life and I don't ever put anything else in, I just keep withdrawing it. At what point are you bankrupt and overdrawn? That's what we do with our health. Now, you'd change the oil in your car every 2,000 miles. You never change your body chemistry, even though you're wearing and tearing it constantly with stresses, far worse than what you'd submit your car to. No maintenance on the body, as if it doesn't require it. But it does. We require more maintenance than anything else we possess. Put it that way. And it can't be superficial external maintenance. You know, have you ever seen those people that will superficially clean the outside of something but never clean the real inside? You know, you go in, you look in there, you know, from the outside of the house it looks all right, then they've got that little flip stuff all over, you know, from their teeth all over the mirror in the bathroom, and they've got toothpaste stains all over, and they get in the bathtub and they got hair around it and it's discolored, they haven't really scrubbed it. And you think, gee whiz, I mean, they're using it every day. Can't they see it? They can see it, but they choose not to change it. It's like a person can see what they're doing to themselves, they just choose not to change it because something else is interfering with that process of wellness. That's what we're here to find out. What is it that's going to keep us from manifesting absolute wellness all the time, consistently? And that also means happiness and joy. That's what our program is about. Now, we're going to do two things today. First, I'm going to see the changes you've made, and then I'm going to address some of the major problems that at this point, people have already started to think, gee, I made sense and I was going to try to make changes, but then I got hit with this, or I couldn't answer that, or I came up with this problem, or I wanted to change, but my family didn't. They got really bent out of shape when I started introducing new foods. The main issues that you find to be stumbling blocks, I'm going to address today. So that if you're in Washington, you're in Atlanta, you're in Miami, wherever you are right now watching this, as a part of our ongoing Mastering Life series, as part of our 7 Steps to Perfect Health, these are the questions I'm sure that you're also going to have to face. And then I'm going to give you some homework with additional questions at the end. So the very first thing we do, and the first thing I suggest you do, is each day acknowledge to yourself that you've done something good. We're always looking at the negative and what's wrong, but we never really acknowledge that every day we do something good for ourselves. So to feel good, think good. And to think good, do good. And to do good, pay attention to what you've done and acknowledge it as being good. If you get through the day and you don't eat anything bad, acknowledge that. Say, I feel good about myself. I had the discipline, I had the love, I had the care of myself that I chose not to put anything in my body. That's good, that's a goal. You've achieved something. Mind you, I don't look at big problems ever. I don't. I look at little problems. If you tell me, Gary, we need $300 billion just in Africa to feed the poor, I don't look at that. That's not real. What I would do is I would say, no, that's not how you're going to do it, because A, it would never get there, and B, if it did, it would always be polluted, corrupted, ciphered off by the power groups. It'd never get to the people. Instead, take one village in one community, in one country, and go in there and help one group of people, maybe 200, 300 people. Put in a proper